Good morning.
Good morning.
And to all of you in the chapel and those who are on YouTube, we especially are glad to see those who may have been here for the first time. And we hope you'll come back soon. Now, please remember to silence your cell phone. You know what's going to happen. You're going to forget, and it's going to go off, and then you're going to be really embarrassed and can't find it in your purse or wherever you have it. I'm just speaking from my experience. I'm sure it would never happen to you. I am the Reverend Suzie Matranga-Watson, and I will be your worship leader this morning. Our own Reverend Robin will provide the sermon and will lead most of the service. East Rose Fellowship sits on the occupied territory of the Clackamas Chinook people, who were forcefully displaced from this land to the Grand Ronde Reservation in 1855. We acknowledge the sacrifices endured by the ancestors of this land, and our presence here today is only possible because of the injustices committed against them. We recognize the inherent sovereignty of the Chinook Nation and the Confederate tribes of the Grand Ronde, who carry on the traditions, history, and legacy held by their ancestors from time immemorial. To this day, we seek meaningful relationships with these communities to help foster repair. Now, let's take a moment and greet each other today, both in the chapel and online. So please stand, turn and face the clock that is not working, but it's there. But there are the cameras for the people online, and then turn to your neighbors and say hello. After service, we have coffee and tea and time to talk. And at that point, you can share everything that you're just started talking about. For our online guests, if you would like to share a joy or a sorrow during the portion of the service, you can do so by entering it in the YouTube chat, and those will be shared aloud with everyone. I also encourage you to identify yourself in the chat so we have better acknowledgement of your presence with us today. We're going to do the responsive reading. It will be on the screen. We bid you welcome, and I'm going to read
The yellow.
I will be reading the yellow, and you will be reading the white. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest.
Who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid.
We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your hearts.
Who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous.
We bid you welcome, who are seekers of a new faith.
Who come to probe and explore, who come to learn.
We bid you welcome, who enter this hall as a homecoming.
Who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family.
Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey,
we bid you welcome.
This chalice lighting reading is from Yami Yandel, A Tapestry of Souls. We light this chalice to ignite the divine spark of the universe, whose pronouns have always been plural, a co-creation of brilliance and diversity, a tapestry of souls perfected.
Thank you, Suzie. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to see you. My opening words today is an excerpt from a longer poem. It's called The Layers by Stanley Kunitz. He writes, I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was, though some principle of being abides, from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind, as I am compelled to look, before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Yet I turn, exulting somewhat, with my will intact to go wherever I need to go, and every stone on the road ahead is precious to me. In my darkest night, when the moon was covered and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus cloud voice directed me, live in the layers, not on the litter. I am not done with my changes. This morning we're going to be singing two very well-known, I think, songs by Joni Mitchell. And the first one is Circle Game. So I invite you to rise as you are able to sing the Circle Game by Joni Mitchell.
Fearful when the sky was full
You beat me again.
If I keep sitting in front, I'll always beat you.
Well, welcome. Today's story is a little bit different because it's not from a book. Instead, I have something to show you. Have you ever seen a doll like this before?
Yeah, my mom has one.
Your mom has one? Great. Well, these are called matryoshkas, or Russian nesting dolls. And it's actually an entire family of dolls that are nestled together. So inside of this doll lives a collection of smaller dolls, each one tucked into the next until you reach the tiniest one at the center.
Let's take them all.
I'm gonna take it apart. Hopefully I won't drop anything. So you can see the dolls get smaller and smaller. And smaller and smaller.
Taking them until you get to the smallest.
Until you get to the smallest one.
That's not the smallest one. It's way smaller.
For today's intents and purposes, this is the smallest one. So you know how when you get something new, it often comes with instructions that say some assembly required? Well, becoming who we are, becoming a whole person, is much like assembling these Russian nesting dolls. The difference is that we humans don't come with instruction manuals. So instead, we get to explore and discover how all of our pieces fit together to create the unique person that we are. So we begin with this, our core self, the small doll. So think of this as the heart of who you are. It might seem small, but this piece is actually the most precious. It's the essence that makes you the unique you. This is the you that experiences every moment of your life. This is the you that always has inherent dignity and worth. And just like a snowflake, you are completely unique. There has never been anyone like you before, and there never will be again. So I think that's pretty special.
And when you start to grow up, you start adding.
Yes, you start adding. So here we have our first layer. We all need time to think, dream, or simply be. And so this first layer is our private self. You can see how it surrounds our core and keeps it safe and whole. Our private self holds our thoughts, feelings, memories, ideas, and dreams. And while we do share glimpses of our private selves with each other, this is our rich inner world of experience. It's mostly just for us.
And when you get older past your private self, you go to layer 2.
Yes, now we have another layer. This piece is our family layer, or you could call it your inner circle layer.
Or just family.
This is the part that we share with those who love us the most, the people we can be around while still being completely ourselves. So that could be your family of birth, that could be family of choice. This layer holds and protects both our core and our private selves. So we share this part of ourselves with those who have earned our deepest trust, and that makes it a very precious and very special piece of ourselves.
The next layer is the third layer.
Here comes the next layer. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, you may. So this is our friend layer. And here we learn to share our most real and true self with others while also having boundaries that keep us comfortable and safe. So this layer holds and protects everything underneath while allowing pieces of our inner self to shine through. We choose carefully when and with whom we share these parts of ourselves, taking time to build trust and good positive relationships. This circle's a little bit wider. It's got even more connections to others.
And this is the last layer.
This is the last layer. Maybe Briar, you want to hand me a piece? And Jonah, you hand me a piece? Thank you.
And then,
Perfect. That is perfect. So now we've added the outer layer, and this is our public self.
final layer.
The final layer, maybe, for moving through the wider world. So this is community, this is shared spaces, and all of the new people that cross our paths. This is the most formal and the most polished layer. because it's the protective shield for all of our other layers as we move through new and unfamiliar situations. But this is still genuinely you, holding and honoring your most inner core self along with all your other layers.
Then you do it again.
So I'll let you take a look at that. But here we are. And here's the really important part. Unlike a toy that comes with rigid instructions, there's no single right way to put yourself together. Your layers may change size depending on who you're with and what you're doing. One layer may come to the surface and others may take a back seat. But the secret lies in ensuring that no matter how many layers we add, they all fit together, working in harmony while staying true to that essential, precious core self that's inside of you. So now we're going to say goodbye to Reverend Robin and the grown-ups. They're going to stay here and keep talking, and we're going to move back to our classroom and see what we have in store. So if the adults along the center aisle will form a bridge, we'll sing the children out.
We're entering now into a pocket of silence in the service. I invite you to put your feet on the floor and uncross your arms, close your eyes, just take a deep breath. Inhale, exhale, and release. Drop your shoulders, soften your face, your forehead, your mouth, your jaw in particular. Check those shoulders. We tend to raise them up, drop them down. Your breath goes with you everywhere. It's portable first aid for your body and your spirit and your mind. So I invite you to begin some rhythmic breathing. 4 beats in through your nose slowly, 5 or 6 beats out through your mouth slowly in a steady rhythm, seeing how much spaciousness you can create from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. If it's new to you, just try it, see how it feels to be in that calm oasis of breath. We'll just breathe now together. As you continue breathing with your eyes closed, I offer this free thinker's serenity prayer. I shall seek from within myself the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, experiencing one moment at a time, seeking wisdom through the human experience, learning all that I can in the brief time I am here, accepting setbacks as the building blocks of growth, realizing that accepting both the good and the bad are simply part of being alive. Trusting that I will make as many things right as is humanly possible in my lifetime, that I may be reasonably fulfilled in this life, knowing this is the only life I will have. Slowly come out of your breathing, maybe 1 or 2 more rounds of inhale and exhale, and then a big exhale and release. We'll remain seated to sing number 352, Find a Stillness. The words will be on the screen.
This is a reading by Robert Fulghum. Robert Fulghum is a Unitarian Universalist minister who lives in the Seattle area. He wrote the famous book, Everything I Learned from Kindergarten. I think that's the title. Similar, it's close to that. And he actually came several times and preached here at East Rose in the past. So we have an affiliate, just a kind of good relationship with him. Always wanted a cuckoo clock, a big Baroque German job with all kinds of carved chutzpah and a little bird that leaps out once an hour and hollers an essential comment on life. So I got one for my best friend, who also happens to be my wife and lives in the same house as me. See, the way this deal works is that she usually doesn't really like the gifts I give her, and I end up with them anyway. So I figured I might as well start out with something I wanted in the first place, so when I get it back, I can truly act surprised and grateful. She gets the thought, I get the gift. I know it's wicked, but also realistic and practical. And don't get high-minded about this, as if you've never thought of doing such a thing. I've been around. I wanted that cuckoo clock, but it cost a bundle. And this store I found had new ones, overstocked, special cheap price, a hot deal. So I bought one. There were 2 messages written in small print on the carton, which I miss reading. Made in South Korea was one, and some assembly required was the other. Gulp. The carton produced 5 plastic bags of miscellaneous parts. and Eretz Bavarian goated hut marked genuine simulated wood. And to top it off, a plastic deer head that looked like Bambi's mother. I put it all together with no parts left over, thank you, and hung it up on the wall. Pulled down the weights, pushed the pendulum, and stepped back. It ticked and talked in a comforting kind of way. Never had an enterprise gone so well for me. The damn thing actually worked. The hour struck, the little door opened. The little bird did not come out, but from deep inside the little hole came a raspy, muffled cook, cook, cook. 3 cuckas? That's it? But the hands on the clock said noon. I peered deep into the innards of the Bavarian alpine goated hut of simulated wood. There was the bird. Using an ice pick and a chopstick, I pried the creature forth. It seemed loose. I reset the clock to 3. The clock ticked and talked and then clanged. The door flew open. No bird. Out of the darkness in the back of the hut came cluck, but no ooh. Not even a ah. Applying the principle of if it won't move, force it, I resorted to a rubber mallet and a coat hanger, followed by vigorously shaking. Reset the clock, hour struck, door opened, silence. Close inspection revealed a small corpse with a spring around its neck, lying on its side. Not many people have murdered a cuckoo bird, but I had done it. I can hear myself telling my wife, "Here, dear, a cuckoo clock for you. The bird is dead." And I did. I gave her the clock, told her the story, and she laughed heartily. She kept the clock too, dead bird and all, for a while. The clock and the bird are long gone from our house now, but the story gets told regularly as we gather with friends. They laugh, and my wife looks at me and grins, and I grin back. She reminds me that the real cuckoo bird in the deal was not the critter inside the clock. And me, well, I still don't have a cuckoo clock of my own, but I have kept something. It is the memory of the message written on the packing cart. It said, "Some assembly required." To assemble the best that is within you and give it away. And to assemble a life with those you love and rekindle laughter and joy. And to keep on trying. Cuckoo to you, old bird, wherever you are.
Like most folks nowadays, I find email blasts and posts on my social media every morning from companies with a product that I've Googled or liked once. Algorithms. We can't seem to escape them. But back in the day, before all of that, blasts were frequently from a company called Groupon. Do y'all remember Groupon? It seemed so innovative at the time, right? Offering me discounts on everything from Mexican meals to pedicures to monogrammed iPod cases. Just yesterday, as if on cue and reading my sermon writing mind, Groupon, still at it, enticed me with 10 deals to mend broken resolutions. And oh dear, it's only January 12th. Now, the offers included, I couldn't help but look at them all, odorless e-cigarettes, online meal planning from something called Keto Now, rockin' body workout sections, luggage, okay, a resolution to travel, I could do that, but my absolute favorite, Sagada weight loss hot pants. I demurred. Yet, having bought Groupons in the past, I know that the fine print often includes a standard form with spaces for your name, your address, your age, etc., and the following instructions. Must be completed prior to redemption. Okay, I'm a sermonator, and this request has struck me as not only unintentionally amusing, but a little profound, because I've detected a theological suggestion in that coupon caveat. Must be completed prior to redemption. Get it? My tuition dollars at work. And, you know, I found myself debating the truth of that in my head. Are we ever truly complete? Are we meant to be complete? How complete do we need to be for redemption, according to our standards or society's standards? And ultimately, how might we reframe our inherent incompleteness as a blessing rather than a deficit, and in doing so, embrace the process of spiritual and personal growth as one of assembling and reassembling the pieces and layers of ourselves rather than a pursuit of perfection. Perhaps we're anxious or we feel defeated because we believe, or we have been led to believe, that we need to be one or more of the following: perfect, accomplished, blameless, or Oprahized into our best selves. As a result, we can seek redemption through often unattainable and self-defeating resolutions in what I like to call the January Resolution Palooza. Absurdly ambitious, but essentially worthwhile promises spring from our lips and our hearts and our wallets as Andy Cohen bellows out the countdown in Times Square. I'm never going to get angry again at my spouse, my children, my friends, my coworkers, my fellow congregants, or I will exercise every day for the rest of my life without fail, or I will be fluent in Swahili by Easter. No more carbs for me, ever. That's one I could never keep. Or the most open-ended and amorphous and common resolution of all. In some ways, the easiest to keep and the easiest to break. I will be a better person. We've been conditioned to believe that we do, in fact, need to be completed prior to redemption, regardless of whether that redemption comes in the form of relational love, societal acclaim, or theological salvation. I'd argue that you are only complete or whole as a human being when something is missing. For it is then that we allow a space that can be infused with the unexpected moments of holiness or sacredness and the lessons we can derive from an imperfect life. Now, for the purposes of this sermon, I'm going to ask that we consider the word holiness with all of the splendid homonyms that present itself. Whole with an H and whole with a W. When we understand holiness as some impossible standard of perfection, we miss the point entirely. I like the idea of highlighting the whole in holiness, a space for searching and growing and assembling and reassembling and living in the layers, our beliefs and values and character and ideals. Holiness understood is not some solid thing, but an opening for revelation, grace, self-acceptance, and yes, appropriate resolve to make changes. But too often, though, we want to fill up that space in a misguided quest for wholeness with a W that actually masks a creeping underlying drive for perfection. The psychoanalyst Otto Rank calls this the disease of perfection and explains how a quest for what we commonly understand as perfection is just a quest of the ego, the smallest part of the self, and not a deeply spiritual quest of our highest and best selves. Simply put, perfection relates to our ego, wholeness relates to the soul and the heart. Which would you rather nurture? Rank suggests that this tyrannizing drive for perfection has been passed on from each generation to the next in our society, in our culture, and that this need becomes life-threatening, sick-making, and self-abusive. It also, quite importantly, breeds shame rather than self-love, believing you are not enough. You are certainly not enough for redemption. These are urgent questions when we come to have a strong sense of our own existence in the world, when our mind is somehow tuned away from the preoccupation with acquiring material goods or acquiring knowledge, being the one who knows, getting, improving, vanquishing, exhausting. As Stephen Batchelor argues in his book, Alone with Others, this horizontal dimension of having or getting, it just goes on and on. It's insatiable. You can never fill that hole. There's never enough. But sometimes something will turn our attention to the deeper dimensions of being, where we'll ask, what is it to be human? To be me, incomplete and imperfect? What is this life? How shall I resolve to live now and also to seek? This becomes the great matter, as it's known, in a real, ever-evolving world. And as we often discover, despite Groupon's relative success in selling that prospect of achievable perfection, such an outcome never holds up in the harsh light of day. Life involves us humans who are by definition beautifully flawed, yet we're not alone. I wonder, have you ever seen a truly perfect tree, entirely symmetrical with absolutely no flaws or brown leaves or deformities of any kind? Have you ever seen a perfect rock, a perfect beach, a perfect dog? Please don't tell my dog I said that. As a society, we are prone, almost conditioned, to lionize our leaders, cast them as mythic exemplars, and then understandingly don't feel worthy to emulate them, or in some cases, don't feel like they're worthy to emulate. They fall miserably as the exemplar we need, and we become bewildered. Martin Luther King Day is coming up, and the African-American scholar Cornel West has argued really interestingly that the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., a complex flesh and blood, flawed human being, is actually harmed by his superhuman mythic status. West writes that if you leave the impression that the only worthwhile changes are by those who are perfect, you cultivate the status quo, by suggesting that humans with failings are unqualified, and this just ends up dissuading and frustrating everyone. West goes on to reflect that King's life and work is a powerful testament to what imperfect mortals can aspire to and achieve. A mentor of mine years ago once quipped, and I've shared it with younger ministers, that a minister without a therapist needs to have their head examined. I think that's true. I have had a variety of therapists over the years, none more effective and memorable by the last one I had when I lived in Pittsburgh. Her name is Betsy, and she's retired now, unfortunately, but the impact of our time together has been really lasting and healing. The modality Betsy uses is called internal family systems, IFS for short, and maybe some of you know it. And I suspect one of the reasons it's so effective is that it speaks to something so fundamental about us humans. We're composed of parts, just like the Russian nesting doll in Tara's story. Not personalities, but parts that make up the whole. That's whole with a W. Now, these parts, they take on important and specific roles in our functioning, even if we are not aware of that, especially in assessing and processing the difficult bits, the traumas, the losses, the places where we get stuck. They can show up in healthy ways and unhealthy ways. All of these parts have shown up for me, and if you think about it, they've probably shown up for you too. The manager, the firefighter, the mother, the wounded child, the exile. I make it sound simple, but like anything related to understanding the self with a big S, it's not. But the goal of this therapy is to get to know these parts and then align them in a healthy way to forge what is known as self-leadership. Betsy would say to me, "Let's call a town meeting of your parts and let them speak." And it was transformative. Try it sometime and listen for some truth-telling, some joy, some pain. Who shows up when you're under stress? The firefighter, the manager, the wounded child. Get them to talk to one another and see if it supports you. At times during these sessions, my life resembled Robert Fulghum's funky clock that's all kook and no ooh. He tells us, "It didn't seem fair because I thought I had all those simulated wood pieces fairly well assembled, and the darn thing should work." And eventually, it did, kind of. Perhaps many of us, I can only speak from my own experience, but perhaps many of us, from an early age, a belief became embedded that we had to get things just right. We couldn't be a person with only kook and no ooh. We had to always get things right, get them aligned. We want there to be no loose strands, no rough edges, and sometimes we come pretty close to that and have been surprised to feel disappointment in that nearly perfect product because something's missing. We've tamed the life and humanity out of it. I'm guessing that many of us have had the experience of interacting with or living with a perfectionist, someone who is deathly afraid of making mistakes or acknowledging incompleteness, and who judges themselves and others harshly when the inevitable mistakes occur. It may be someone in your family, someone you work with, someone you serve on a committee with. Maybe it's you. I wince now at the memory of how I charged through a self-defeating, perfectionistic, forced march in my 30s. And I know many women who would agree with that experience. And what I've discovered, particularly now that I have a daughter in her 30s, and I'm observant of her, what I've discovered is that this type of operating in the world and in relationships is destructive, futile, and only causes misery. It can never lead to any form of redemption or transcendent harmony. At this point for me, the goal of my life is not to have an A+ life. If I can sustain a solid B, a B- would be fine, maybe even a C+ from day to day, well, that's going to be good enough for me. We can always strive for excellence, but that is different than striving for perfection. So strive for excellence and give yourself some days off. If I can align my parts with a self-compassion and integrity that leads to self-leadership, then that's my redemption. If I can live in the layers with both grit and humility, I will be content. I do believe that when we cultivate honesty about ourselves, forgive ourselves, apologize and resolve appropriately, and allow ourselves to grapple with our imperfection and incompleteness, our lives actually improve. Our self-esteem may strengthen. Our relationships will most definitely benefit. So I ask you to join me today, January 12th, to create an opening for holiness and authenticity and for living in the messy moment. As we do this individually and together in beloved community, we will discover things about ourselves, about our inner resilience, our sense of humor, our character, our genuine convictions, our faith, for good or ill. We bring our parts into a supportive alliance with one another. So let's not waste those moments when the clock only goes ooh by glossing over, denying, avoiding, or neglecting the message. Many jagged or smoothly shaped pieces may become lodged in that space that we have left faithfully and courageously open. Illness, divorce, loss, boredom, joy, success, uncertainty, amazement, fear, loneliness, togetherness, and wonder. Remember, friends, that joy and sorrow, success and failure, they are ever woven fine together. Keep your inner toolbox ready for assembling and reassembling your parts with humility and humor. Store those extra pieces in a catch-all drawer. You can go back to them later. Cultivate curiosity about yourself rather than judgment. Ask, who am I? What is it to be human? How shall I manifest this one wild and precious life? There are only 353 days remaining, you know, until the ball drops again and that yearly resolution palooza kicks in again. In the meantime, I say skip the Groupon hot pants and create an intention as best you can to be moderate in all things except compassion for yourself and those precious pilgrims who roll along beside you. So may it be. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen. We're going to sing another Joni Mitchell classic, Both Sides Now. Please rise as you are able.
Lock the
Each week at East Rose, we take an offering to support this church and to share with the community, a nonprofit. This quarter, half of our offering will go to NIA, Native American Youth and Family Center, which serves self-identified Native Americans, infant to elder, from across Portland metropolitan area. Their aim is to enhance the diverse strengths of our youth and families in partnership with the community through cultural identity and education. They believe that traditional cultural values are integral to regaining and building self-esteem. NIA values respect for the environment, places the larger community before the individual, and involves elders. They promote healthy living through positive alternatives to high-risk behaviors and promote the values of sobriety, family stability, culture, active lifestyles, and education. If you are attending online, you may donate by visiting our website and click the donate button, or you may scan the QR code on the screen. If you are here for the first time, we invite you to let the basket pass and truly be our guest. The gifts of the congregation will now most greatly be received. Please remain seated and sing our song of gratitude. It's 110 in the teal hymnal. We give thanks. And the words are on the screen. The chalice, I share these words by John Brigham. Go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know. We have, this is our time for announcements, and we have one. John Wygant. You talk.
Good, thank you. Many of you know I'm a futurist and a climate activist, and one of the things that we need to do is to get away from fossil fuels like natural gas and gasoline. Electricity is the future, and I have a lot of friends that now have induction stoves, and they are so proud of them that I need to recommend them to people. But before I recommend them to people, I needed to try one. So I bought one of these, and I loved it. I sent one to my daughters, and they loved them. And so anybody with any stove, I have an electric stove, but I still do about 80% of my cooking on one of these. And that means these are about 60% more efficient. So if the electricity that I'm getting is fired by natural gas at the generating station, I am saving natural gas and less pollution to the world. By the way, natural gas cooking is bad for your health. They've now demonstrated that. And so here's what's in the back room. There's that.
It's a little show and tell. And John can certainly tell you more about this during coffee hour.
And there's this,
We're running a little over.
which is in the Thatcher room. And here's the other stove, this one pictured. And here's a sign-up sheet to take one of these home for a week. Free, no charge. Just bring it back in a week and promise to use it 3 times to test it out. And my guess, and these things are cheap. I think this one is now up to about $62, and this one is about $67. So it's a cheap way to enjoy life. Thank you.
That thing is heavy. Okay. We did that, we did that, we did that. Your turn.
First, I want to thank Suzie and Mary and John and our greeters and Tara in absentia for being part of our service this morning and for all of you coming and forming our community this morning. I have 2 short announcements. There will be spirited conversations today, and it will be led by Char. I'm very glad she's willing to do that. So you will assemble here as always after you've gotten some coffee. Also, I have an out-of-town guest, so we won't have lunch with the minister on Tuesday, but we will be back a week from Tuesday for our lunch with the minister here at the congregation. Our benediction today is by Sarah Morris Campbell. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Blessed be, and blessed we, and amen. Go in peace, return in joy, and please come together for coffee, tea, and conversation in the Thatcher room at the end of the hall. Thank you.